What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing well. We have the third bit of news today that I want to go over, as Ewan McGregor has to halt lightsaber training for a couple days, and he's totally fine now. But I don't want to go into detail about that. I want to go into detail about something that he says here. So let's start from the top. Obi-Wan Kenobi was huddled, shivering, soaked in sweat. He was crying, literally crying in agony, but he wasn't mortally wounded by Darth Vader. So he goes on to say he had to cancel lightsaber training and postpone the interview. He only did that for 2 days for filming the Disney Plus series Obi-Wan Kenobi. For months, we've been doing these monster 2.5-hour sessions of sword fights and hand-to-hand stuff, says McGregor, bearded for the part in a Zoom conversation that spans several hours. But there was no way it was happening this week, he adds, not with 100.7 fever. The disturbance in the Force did not last long. McGregor was back to normal in 48 hours. For McGregor, a return to the Star Wars universe, the show picks up a decade after events of 2005's Revenge of the Sith, is the most tantalizing proposition to come his way in ages. The enthusiastic reception for The Mandalorian, however, amongst the first of 10 Star Wars spin-offs coming to Disney Plus, proved there are still compelling new stories to tell in that universe, and that audiences are very eager to see them. That series, which cost about $100 million to produce, was a big lure for the streaming service's 100 million subscribers. You guys remember when Disney Plus had just come out, pretty much? I think they had like 28 or like 30 million subs, and now they're at over 100 mil. Featuring a de-aged Mark Hamill for season 2 as Luke, was the first non-Netflix series to top Nielsen's streaming charts. Obi-Wan Kenobi is thus perfectly primed to push McGregor's long and varied career to midlife hyperdrive. It's true. I'm really excited about it, he says with glee. Maybe more so than the first ones because I'm older. I just turned 50, and I'm just in a much better place. Before returning to Tatooine, McGregor will take on a very different kind of master on a competing streaming giant. And then it goes on to talk about another movie that he did, or something like that. So what I want to go into detail about is how he says, for months we've been doing these monster 2.5-hour sessions of sword fights and hand-to-hand stuff. So, who the heck is he fighting? Well, we already know. It's Darth Vader. I mean, that's at least one of the people that we know he's fighting. Because he and Hayden Christensen have both confirmed, and also I think it was someone else who was running the show or something like that, or was it Kathleen Kennedy or something, she said that they're going to be fighting. They full-on said, and I've made a video about it, everyone's talking about it, they're full-on going to be fighting each other. I don't know how that's going to happen. I think it's going to be a dream sequence, because I don't think it'll make all that much sense if they actually met. I don't think Vader would let him go that easily. And I think he would be able to sniff him out throughout the galaxy at that point, unless, you know, they make it some very compelling argument as to why he can't. But at this point, Vader only lives for one thing: revenge. Revenge, and after the revenge, to bring Padme back in some sort of way. But this is 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. So he's not at, like, dude, I cannot wait for the show. This, like, I know Star Wars, like, decently, okay? But the movies, the first 6 movies, I'm very confident in my knowledge. I know that stuff so freaking well. I know the making of, I know the characters, the character arcs, the things that they've gone through, their psychology, their like, I'm very, very interested in these first 6 films more than any of the lore, any of the expanded universe, anything. All the other stuff is really cool, but this is my bread and butter. So at this point, if Vader saw Obi-Wan, and mind you, Vader has gone to Tatooine in this time. He's gone. He went in the comics and he choked out Jabba the Hutt with the Force, because Jabba said something about him being a Jedi. He like made a joke, and it pissed Vader off. So he's obviously been to Tatooine. He went there. He set aflame a whole Tusken village, and they ended up worshiping him after that. I've done a comic on that too. But at this point, for months we've been doing these monster 2.5. There hasn't been a training session like that with training for a lightsaber since Revenge of the Sith. The amount of training that went into that was astronomical. And so for Ewan McGregor to say that we've been doing these monster 2.5-hour training sessions for months really tells me that we're going to get something that is on par, if not beyond par, beyond Revenge of the Sith's Mustafar fight scene. And to be able to see that between Vader and Obi-Wan will do 2 things. First of all, it's going to be really interesting to see these 2 characters now at a much more powerful stage. This is probably their most elite stage in their life, because after this, you know, Obi-Wan starts to deteriorate, becomes older. But he is more strong in the Force at this point, I believe, unless they want to totally play it a different way, where he's lost and dazed and has lost his ability in the Force and becomes rusty and has to gain it back. That could be an interesting character arc in itself. But as for Vader, Vader here is so much stronger than the Anakin that we saw in Revenge of the Sith. And I know a lot of you were saying, like, oh, how could that be? Anakin was, you know, whole and he wasn't, you know, burnt and all this stuff. Yeah, sure. Physically, he was able to move a little bit better. But his power in the Force, he was a newbie Sith. He didn't really know his new powers or how to use them or how to anything. And that's why he lost. He was very arrogant, he was very cocky, and he was very brash. His hubris in the end destroyed him. It's even said that he tried to kill Obi-Wan the same way that Obi-Wan tried to kill Maul. And Anakin thought that, you know, this is going to be another jab to his master because he's going to basically use the same move on him, but, you know, kill him. Which doesn't work, obviously. He undercalculated. Now, in this film, in this show, I think if they fight, it's going to do that first thing. And then the second thing is it's essentially going to confuse me as to why their fight scene is so freaking badass in this one. And then in A New Hope, they're very skeptical of each other. So it could, perhaps, end up in a massive, massive stalemate, which I don't want to happen. I don't even want them to fight, to be honest. I mean, don't get me wrong, it would be really cool. It would be really awesome to see again. But to see them actually fight for real is going to be kind of confusing to me because, sure, in A New Hope, look, he never said, Vader never said, you know, oh, the last time I saw him was on Mustafar. No, he's like, it's a present I haven't felt since. But you assume that, you know, it's been that long. So he left it open-ended. And of course, I guess they're going to capitalize on it, unless they make it a dream sequence, which has happened in the comics itself. So that could be a thing. I'm really thinking it could be a dream sequence because it's gonna be interesting to see how they'll try to fix this or explain this if they do meet in real life. Because there's no way in hell that Vader would ever let Obi-Wan go. I don't think. And I want to know what you think about that. So all I want to say is that this fight scene is going to be freaking ridiculous. Now, if it's not Vader that he's training to fight, and also he says 2.5 hour sessions of sword fights and hand-to-hand stuff. So the hand-to-hand stuff, it could be against Vader, but it also could be against someone else. It could be against Inquisitors. It could be against Tusken Raiders. You know, Obi-Wan, in his downtime in the books and comics, he essentially beat up Tusken Raiders without his lightsaber. One, to not draw attention, and two, so that he would actually exercise. You know, because if you just used his lightsaber, it would just be super easy. So with this, we could see a ton of fighting, obviously. But the main thing, dude, it's gonna be Obi-Wan versus Vader, and boy, do I want to see it, but boy, do I not want to see it at the same time. You know, for story's sake, I don't want to see it, but for entertainment's sake and seeing these two homies fight is gonna be ridiculous. It's gonna be beyond cool. We all saw with that fan film that came out, Scene 38, which was epic. That fight scene was pretty sweet. I just think that it's going to be pretty interesting to see Vader versus Obi-Wan, and this is what I think that the lightsaber fighting training is going to be about. Now, it could also be a flashback sequence. It could also be Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars with Anakin Skywalker in their Clone Wars armor. How cool would that be? That would be freaking sweet. But they did say that Vader and Obi-Wan are going to be fighting, so I guess it is what it is. I'm shipping dream sequence. We'll see what happens. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'm glad Ewan McGregor is doing good again, and he's ready to get back and train and give us this awesome show, which is probably going to leave me in a puddle. So love you guys. I'll catch you in a little bit, and let me know what you think. May the Force be with you. Thank you so much for watching. Oh, and check me out on Spotify and StarWarsTheory.com. Go comment on the forums and let me know all of your questions, and I'm very active on there, so I'll see you guys soon.